Hello to all Cinemaster lovers. The movie begins with a knight running from many soldiers with his horse, trying to escape. They shoot numerous arrows at him, but he manages to dodge them. One of the soldiers says, "Nothing's working on him," and decides to throw a rope to knock him off his horse. However, the knight pulls the rope instead, causing the soldier to fall off his horse and crash into a tree. The knight then cuts down the tree with his sword, blocking their path, and manages to escape. An owl tries to knock the knight off his horse, but he scares it away with his sword. The owl, however, tells him, "Not this time," and swoops in from the other side, successfully knocking him off. At that moment, the soldiers catch up to the knight and the owl. The soldiers attack him, and the knight recklessly beats one then another, but the third soldier manages to knock him to the ground. As he gets up, one of the soldiers shoots an arrow at him. The knight catches the arrow with his hand and strikes the soldier with it. Suddenly, the owl behind him transforms into a woman named Vivian. She is the wife of the false king, who killed his brother, the true king, to seize the throne. However, the true king was much stronger, and the false king couldn't kill him. At that moment, the wife arrives and turns the king into a statue, using her magical skills. She possesses a gem that grants her strange, powerful magic. Afterward, she kills the king's army, turning them all into statues. We learn that the knight is the last remaining member of the king's army. She turns him into a statue as well and orders her guards to throw him into the sea. We then see the knight's horse transform into a wizard. This wizard only uses his magic for good and is tasked with helping the knight. Just before she can finish off the knight, the wizard manages to escape and jumps into the water. We then shift to the present day, a man named Evan. He is a magician participating in a magic show in Russia. When Evan takes the stage, he introduces himself, claiming he can locate any hidden item without being told anything. However, before the show starts, someone has revealed all the answers to the questions, and Evan is just pretending. He explains that the sun is his symbol and assists him with her magic. After the show, Evan meets the man who revealed all the answers and gives him money. When he goes to his car, an elderly woman approaches him with a strange look. He asks her, "What do you want, old lady?" She tells him, "I came to say a few words. I see a great future for you, and you will face evil sorcerers in their world and defeat them. But beware, because a bee will destroy your son, and you will die there." He dismisses her, thinking she's just an old woman talking nonsense like him, and drives away, leaving her behind. When he gets home, he finds that his granny isn't watching the program he's on, which upsets him. His phone rings, and a woman calls, saying she needs his help with a spell. He tells her, "I'll be there in the morning." The next day, Evan visits the woman with the spell to treat her. After examining her, he tells her she needs treatment and assures her not to worry. He begins the treatment by cutting a bit of her hair, lighting paper, and performing various strange actions that seem incomprehensible. He then tells her that her problem is that she needs to love and be loved genuinely. She praises his words as accurate, pays him, and believes him. He takes his leave saying, "Goodbye, you idiot." Another woman calls him, saying her daughter has been in a coma for a year and a half and she doesn't know what to do. She fears losing her daughter and begs him to help. She believes he is an extraordinary magician and insists he use his sun magic to save her, as all the doctors have been unable to help. When Evan sees the sick girl, he feels pity because he knows he's just a con artist in Russia. He tells the woman, "I have an important appointment and need to leave now, but I will come back to help you later." As he leaves, Evan is deeply affected and starts crying. He remembers his time in the orphanage, where he was mistreated and locked in a cupboard. One day, he managed to escape using a sewing needle and sewed the other children to their beds while they slept. From that moment on, they labeled him as a magician. As Evan grew up, he kept the needle, believing it brought him luck and helped him in many things. He wondered what people would want from someone who worships the sun. Evan is sitting in a mall, lost in thought, when some people who have been deceived by him come after him, intending to kill him. He manages to escape at the last moment, and they chase him through the mall until he reaches a children's amusement park. There, he finds a wrestler and sneaks through a hidden exit, while everyone is still chasing him. When he emerges from the hidden exit, he finds himself in an unfamiliar place, confused about his surroundings. Suddenly, he looks up and sees a powerful good magician standing in front of him. He asks the magician, "Where am I? And how did I get here?" The magician replies, "We are in a city called Wiblogri." The magician tells him, "You are Evan, the son of the true king of this land. The king asked that you be brought here, and we will take care of you and fulfill your wishes. Your father wanted me to hide you in the place where he lived. You are now in a parallel world to your own. Your past is behind you, and you must protect this land in place of your father." He gives Evan a ring, saying, "Your father left this for you." Suddenly, something strange happens. The magician is struck by an arrow in his back and vanishes. Evan sees some soldiers approaching to attack him and says, "Wait, don't you know who I am? I'm Evan, the son of the king." They reply, "And what of it? You're just like the king." He retorts, "So, you see me this way?" and then runs away. He grabs a tree and falls to the ground where they capture him and take him to the city's king. They report, "We found this person in the forest," and when asked who he is, they say, "His name is Evan, the son of the king." The king examines Evan and notices the ring on his hand, exclaiming, "This is really the king's son." He tells Evan, "I thought you were dead. Vivian, come and meet Evan. Show him to his room so he can rest. He is the king's son." Evan is confused and skeptical about everything happening to him. He says, "Rest? I just want to leave. Get me a taxi, and I'll leave." Vivian responds, "Entering is not the same as leaving. You're staying here. We finally found you." She then instructs the guards to imprison him in a room beneath the palace. They imprisoned Evan and tied him up while he was dazed and confused by what had happened. He heard a strange sound coming from beside him and looked to see a strange man whose body was cut into pieces and trapped in ice cubes, with each part of his body in a separate cube. And he says, "Who are you, man?" and asks, "What do they want from me?" The man replies, "I am Gucci, and although I'm cut into pieces, I'm not dead." He tells him, "We're waiting for the king's son to rescue us from Vivian and her husband." Evan responds, "But I'm Evan, the king's son." But Gucci tells him, "You're neither the king's son nor like him, nor as brave as him." At this point, Evan realizes that the man, who looks like a wrestler, is actually the king's son, and feels upset because he came here by mistake. Evan says, "Honestly, I'm foolish and came here by mistake. I want to return to my world and don't want to stay here. How can I go back?" Gucci tells him, "To return, you need the magic sword of your father, and no one knows its location except me." At that moment, the king's guards arrest a witch named Beba, who looks very powerful, and the guards are afraid of her as they take her into the room beneath the palace. Beba enters the cell with Evan and Gucci, accompanied by a small frog. She sends the frog to the guard who is standing by the cell. This guard had been going through Evan's belongings, accidentally taking pictures of himself, and also throwing all of Evan's money into the fire and burning it. The frog transforms into a beautiful girl who puts a sleeping potion in the guard's water. When he drinks the water, he passes out. Meanwhile, Beba, Evan, and Gucci, Trina escape from the cell. Beba attempts to reassemble Gucci's body, breaking all the ice he is trapped in. She successfully restores his body, and he stands up and walks with them. The king's guards hear the sound of the ice breaking and rush to attack them. Trina captures them. However, the girl who used to be a frog is very strong and manages to defeat all the guards. They then escape from the cell. When they reach the forest, Beba has the power to control everything to the extent that she has a moving house with her. The house moves with her wherever she goes, and they enter the house, which continues to move with them. The queen wakes up to the noise and transforms into an owl. Trina chase after them. However, Beba manages to make the owl fall to the ground. Vivian telling the king that Evan has escaped with Beba and Gucci, and that they have teamed up with evil against them. She says they must deal with Evan because it seems he is not so easy to handle. Beba, Evan, Gucci, and Co. together. Beba tells Evan, "We need you to be a mischievous kid. Now go clean the house where we'll be staying and work like the rest of us." Evan replies, "Sure." Evan enters the house to clean, but unfortunately, he ends up accidentally starting a fire with a lighter he has. Beba tries to put out the fire but fails and then goes to beat Evan. Evan takes the stick from her and breaks it. Gucci tells them that they need to leave immediately and get to the magic staff that will help them. The only problem is that the staff is in a place known only to the sea monster. As they walk after Evan accidentally burned their house, heading toward the sea monster, they set a trap for it and place a bait to trick it. However, the monster figures out the trick and goes after Co to attack and capture her. But finally, Evan goes to fight the monster, rescuing Co before the sea monster can take her. Gucci approaches the sea monster and proposes a deal, offering him Beba after she has transformed into a cute girl. The sea monster agrees to the deal. While they are walking, Beba tries to attract the monster's attention by constantly looking at him, laughing, and changing her walk. The monster falls for the trap and starts to fall in love with her. Vivian going to the sea monster's lake and throwing a magical arrow, which allows her to know everything that happened between them. She then throws another magical arrow that transforms into a soldier who takes on Vivian's appearance and reports everything that happened to the king. As they continue their journey and reach a cave they need to pass through, Evan's loud voice attracts the mountain monster, which comes out to attack them, wanting to kill them all. However, they manage to hide from it. But then something frightening happens. The sea monster falls from the object it was sitting on, and that object contains water. If the sea monster is without water, it will die. Evan tells them that he will handle the situation and try to talk to the monster, hoping it will listen to him and leave them alone. However, they tell him that others have tried to do the same, and were all killed. They point to the ground, showing him the remains of those who tried before. Evan uses his wits, observes the monster, and realizes that it is a female monster who is concerned about her appearance. He plays music for her, and as she dances, he gives her a flower. She then allows them to leave. They arrive at the river and the sea monster tries to cross it to help them. However, it's unable to do because the river is filled with vicious fish. As soon as the sea monster tries to enter, it quickly retreats back. They don't know what to do, and Gucci argues with Beba and Ko. Ko becomes frustrated and tells them she will no longer continue with them and wants to be left alone. She then moves away from them. Evan follows her and starts talking to her, introducing himself more. He tells her that he has spent his whole life searching for his family and that he always wished he could live with them. He says that if he had lived with them, his life would have been much better. While they are talking, they find a rabbit between them. Ko picks it up and realizes that it's not a real rabbit, but someone disguised inside it. She wants to kill it, but Evan stops her. At that moment, the rabbit transforms into Queen Vivian, and they flee from her, jumping into a very deep river. To cross it, they must break a massive rock in the middle of the water. The sea monster, Boko, drinking all the water from the river by itself. This allows them to reach the rock, break it, and cross safely. They then say goodbye to Boko. When Vivian reaches the river, she finds Boko alone and turns him into a stone statue. Boko then explodes, and all the water he drank floods the entire area, drowning everyone. As they continue walking, a large rock nearly falls on Gucci, but Evan saves him, pulling him down to the ground just before the rock hits him. Gucci says, "Why did you save me? I don't need anyone to save me." Evan responds, "Is that your way of saying thank you?" Before Gucci can finish his sentence, another rock falls on him, and he says, "I'm sorry, I'm just foolish. Please save me." Night falls, and they sit down in a place to rest. They start talking, and Evan teases Ko, calling her a frog. She gets upset, feeling really offended, and walks away in a huff. Evan, feeling guilty, gets up to make amends. He tells her, "I'm sorry, I was just joking with you," and reassures her not to be afraid of anything. He gives her his necklace and says, "I'm not the king's son. I just want to leave this place, return to my own world, and I don't want anything else but that." She tells him, "The king's magic sword kills anyone unfamiliar who touches it in an instant. So, if you're not the king's son, it's better for you not to touch it or go near it." As soon as Evan hears this, he decides that he needs to leave and escape from this place. However, as he tries to leave, he finds Vivian standing right in front of him with her guards, and they capture him. Ko wakes up to the sound of Evan and, in a rush, tries to fight them all off. But the overwhelming numbers overpower her, and they push her off the mountain. However, at the last moment, she manages to save herself by transforming into a frog, and the necklace Evan gave her saves her. The soldiers take Evan and Beba to the place where the magic sword is kept, intending to take it from them. It's the only thing that can be used to fight against them. When they reach the place with the swords, they tell Evan that he is the one who will retrieve the magic sword for them. As Evan approaches the sword, he is terrified by Ko's warning that if he is not the king's son and touches the sword, he will die instantly. Evan grabs the sword and is very happy, thinking it's the real one and that this means he is the king's son. However, the sword turns out to be fake, and it breaks in his hand. Vivian thinks he's just being playful and beats him, but he manages to defend himself and accidentally grabs the magic sword. The sword turns out to be real, and Evan survives. He uses it to free Gucci and Beba. Gucci takes the sword from Evan and reveal that he has been in cahoots with the king and queen. He intends to deliver the real magic sword to them, betraying Evan. Ko is about to go crazy trying to help them, but they are holding her back and won't let her go. Meanwhile, Evan manages to take the sword from Gucci and uses it to activate a time machine. He travels back to his home and resolves the situation. However, Evan is sad. He takes out his phone and looks at pictures of them together, wishing he could have saved them. He gathers himself, leaves, and heads to the amusement park he first visited. However, when he gets off the ride that brought him there, he finds himself in a swimming pool. Security arrives, arrests him, and locks him up. However, while he's in prison, he receives a pleasant surprise and finds the Wizard of the Forces of Good. He is overjoyed to see him and begs the wizard to take him to where he needs to go by any means. But the wizard shocks him by saying that his staff is with the officer and he can't do anything without it. Evan manages to convince the officer, who then hands the staff over to him. The wizard performed the magic and successfully send Evan to the other world. He gives Evan some magical gold and tells him that this gold will awaken a powerful dragon, who is the only one who can help him. Evan arrives and finds Vivian tying up Gucci and Beba, preparing to kill them. Evan, holding the magical gold, goes to the dragon to give it the gold. However, the dragon has sworn not to awaken. Meanwhile, the guards arrive and capture Evan. We see Evan going crazy, holding a gun and threatening the king, saying he will kill him to get rid of him. He shoots at the king, but it turns out the king is equipped with a death shield and, like Gucci, doesn't die. A surprise occurs as the dragon awakens and grows larger. It breathes fire at the guards and the king. Evan then goes to free Ko. We see Evan fighting the king while Ko and Vivian battle over the magic sword. Meanwhile, Ko manages to get the magical gem and takes it from Vivian. At that moment, the king recalls the day he and Vivian killed his brother. He desires to inflict the same fate on Evan that he did to his father. Meanwhile, Gucci does something right for once, holding the gem and using its magic to prevent the king from killing Evan. However, Vivian throws the sword at Gucci, cutting off his hand. The gem shatters when it hits the ground, leading to the death of both the king and Gucci. Vivian escapes, as she is weak without the gem. When the gem is destroyed, everything returns to how it was before. Even Evan's father, the king, is revived, and they all celebrate his return. Evan returns to his normal life. He goes to the hospital where the girl who fell into a coma is, and he has a magical drink with him. When she drinks it, she wakes up instantly. Evan returns to live in their world again because he has fallen in love with Ko and wants to marry her. The movie ends.